Well, good morning. It's Picken, CEO and founder of Migrate, and it's time for day 3's lessons of leadership mastery. I'm wearing my t-shirt, and you can see it's a bit of fun all around. Oh, hang on. I've got my badge on, leadership and how teamwork can actually work together. I was given that by my team a couple of years ago. You can see here I've still got the magnificent view with the beautiful boats, and this is actually where I did my morning prime this morning, which is the most amazing place with the entire city behind. So yesterday was an incredibly tough day for me, very emotional, lots of true stories where people shared, and I just found it incredibly emotional and found myself in tears most of the day, which was very difficult and very draining basically. But they actually called the day the creation of transformation. What a beautiful name, creation of transformation. So I've got quite a lot of information to share here, so I'm going to go as quick as possible, and as always I'm going to go much deeper for our inner circle members, and if you want to know more details, just click below. So people who manage their own state are the ones who ultimately take control and get what they want. If you're feeling overwhelmed, there was a great little tool here on how to get out of it. Firstly, list everything which you need to think about. So get everything out of your head and actually write it all down. Then prioritize the list and even compartmentalize the list so that it becomes easy. Chunk it down into, it's that whole saying, how do you eat an elephant? You cut it into pieces. And then take action on the very first thing on the list. Once you get momentum, you'll be surprised what can actually happen. And then what happens from that is you create a vacuum. And once you've got a vacuum, it creates a pattern interrupt, and ultimately the brain can find the answers. It's a bit like when you've lost your keys, and when you're stressing about, trying to remember find where the keys are, or trying to remember someone's name, you can't remember and you can't find the keys. And yet when you go and do something else, suddenly you remember where the keys were or what that person's name was. We then had a presentation by a lady called Siri Lindley. I'd highly recommend you go and look her up. She's a world champion triathlete and has coached many people to win the world championships of the Ironman. What an amazing lady with just the most incredible energy. So she started with a quote by Michelangelo: "I saw the angel and the marble, and I carved till I set her free." How many of you have an angel inside of you? And you can see the angel and you can see the marble, but what are you doing to carve yourself free and set that angel free? We're most powerful when we have reason. If I don't like the music, I'm the only one with the power to change it. So that's interesting. If you don't like your life, if you don't like things that are happening in your life, you're the only one who has the power to change it. Where focus goes, energy flows. Are you focusing on what you can control? Focus on what you have, and focus on what you're grateful for. And I'll talk a little bit about rituals just now. Let go of what everyone else thinks. Be authentically me. Be someone who is prepared to fail. Everyone's so scared of failure. It blows me away, but they are, including, I suppose, to some extent myself. But be prepared to fail. If you're not willing to fail, you're not prepared to win. How beautiful is that? And life is happening for us. Get a coach. Find someone who's doing it and then model them. So she kept putting herself in proximity of very successful people, and within 10 years she went from someone who'd never done a triathlon to being the world champion, and she explained to us how she actually did that. And if you make up an excuse, you give up all your power. So most people have an excuse. They blame other people, blame the coach, blame the weather, blame the conditions, but if you give it all up, if you use those excuses, you give up your power. And it's ultimately, if you own it, you build resonance, and that'll increase your capacity to succeed. Be the best you can be in every single day of your life. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And have love, appreciation, and respect for yourself. Step in, be brave, and go after your targets. Set a target and step in, be brave, and just keep going until you get there. Culture is everything. It's amazing. I've read and listened to so much about culture. She said if anything would poison the culture, she would release it. And she said how she fired a lady that was about to get an Olympic medal, but just because she was bad for culture. And care more about you need to care more about who people are as human beings, and the value that they can add to the culture, and care more about culture and people. So I need a big lesson there, and I need to make some big changes in my life to ensure that I'm around the type of people and the culture that I want to be part of, basically, and not put up with excuses as to things that are breaking the culture. Decide to listen to what others say. So you've got a choice. You can decide to listen to what others say, or you can create your own story. And then you need to back yourself. You need to believe in yourself. And when you do, the universe will provide you with the answers. Now, I have still not found a sophisticated way to hold the camera and turn the book. So give me 2 seconds here. Okay, and then she spoke a lot about relationships and how she completely lost herself in a relationship, and ultimately she decided that happiness was the most important thing, and that she could get whatever she had already achieved in her life back if she believed in herself, and it was giving up everything so that she could focus on a chance to be happy and a chance to take back control of herself. And she was reunited with herself, and in that she then found love, and she's found this most incredible person where it inspires her from the inside out, and she spoke a lot about that. And she said, the one thing in life is that we all got our struggles, we all got our challenges, and that every single one of them has a gift in that struggle. And so the question is, what's the gift in the struggles you've had in your life? And then be grateful for the times when you believed in yourself. Always think about the times that you believed in yourself, because they'll give you the power to get through whenever you need it. Proximity is power. The more you're around people who are going where you're going, the quicker you want to go. For those of you part of the Wealth in a Circle, that's exactly it. It's the laws of nature. A bird flying in a flock can fly 70% further than a bird flying on its own. And yet most people in life are trying to fly on their own. Why? It's literally a law of nature. If you don't have what you want, or if you're not well on your way to getting it, then something is blocking in your psychology. That was a big eye-opening experience for me. And when you shift your triad, and remember your triad is your physiology, your focus and beliefs, and your language, and if you do it powerfully enough, you can literally shift your entire life, which I think is fascinating. We did an entire exercise on this, and I'd love to share this with people. Maybe we'll do it at the WealthE weekend, because it was such a powerful exercise for me and for everyone involved. Then one thing I really enjoyed, which I always get into trouble with my wife, I teach my son that rules are for other people, and there was an army officer, he was a West Point graduate, and he says rules are not always there to serve you. It's amazing when you deal with enlightened people, they actually understand this whole principle that rules are there to be broken, and that not all rules are good. I wrote that poem years ago where rules, who made the rules? The people that made the rules said that the world was flat, that we couldn't go to the moon, that we couldn't fly, that women couldn't vote or Africans couldn't vote. Forget the rules, follow the laws of nature and find your destiny. And I know people look at me very weird, and I'm a lawbreaker and whatever you want to call it, rule breaker, but I feel very strongly that rules are for other people, and the reason being is that the rules are not generally wrong. This was really interesting as well. You need to reward yourself, and whatever you reward gets reinforced, and ultimately it becomes automatic. Anything you do over and over again and repeated becomes a habit. And if you repeat your habits, it becomes conditioning. But to do that, you need to reward yourself, and it needs to be reinforced, and then it will ultimately become automatic. And the question is, how much do we praise ourselves? We praise other people, but how much do we praise ourselves? And we need to practice giving ourselves joy and rewarding ourselves, which I found really fascinating. And then it spoke a lot about conditioning. And there's a video I'm going to put here with a link to it, where you're the sum of all your training. It's so interesting, the rule of 10,000 hours. Everyone's out there always wanting to be the next best millionaire, or to, set some goal, and they think they're going to achieve it overnight. There's no such thing as an overnight success. I've never met one yet. And, Malcolm Gladwell talks about the rule of 10,000 hours. Whatever you do in life, it's going to take you years, decades worth of knowledge and understanding and deep mastery. And then you're going to succeed. And so make sure, firstly, you find something you love, and then go deep in it. But you're the sum of all the training. You're the sum of everything you've done, and all the risks you've taken in your life, and all the times you put yourself out there. I always say I like to be the dumbest, poorest person in the room. How many times do you put yourself in very uncomfortable situations so that you can grow? And if you want to grow a hell of a lot faster, there's the R3 conditioning ritual, which is interesting because I've seen this both here and elsewhere. But there's three things, and I'll go into this in a lot more detail in the webinar, but it's all about your rituals, your daily rituals. I'm here this morning on this point. I do my daily prime. I've got my goals, I've got my mantras that I say, and I don't just do it once off, I do it every single day. Since I did Date with Destiny in 2016, I've done it every single day since. Role models, who are the people who are your role models? What would they say? What would they do? And then obviously rehearsals, visualization, and physically practicing with the mind and the body. And there's so much more that I could go into that. And then we spoke about, how do you execute and implement this in your life, set yourself up for success, and systems, and checking your systems for support. And I think I'd like to share quite a lot more about that in the webinar, because I think most people, that's why they don't get lasting change, is that they don't set themselves up for success. Richard Branson said, find great people, set them up for success, get out of their way, and then have feedback loops to help them succeed. And Those are all such valuable lessons around leadership. And then finally, we finished with a guy called Berger. I'd highly recommend you go look this guy up, Berger. And he's one of the top 30 thought leaders in the world in terms of leadership. And he said most people in life, have an event and then they react and then there's an outcome. And what you really want to do in life is that you have an event, you pause, you breathe, you think, you focus on what the outcome is, and then you have a reaction. And in the first example, it's all about the past. You're reacting to your past. You're reacting to your conditioning and what you were taught in the past. And in the second example, it's all about the future. It's based on the future and the future that you want to create. And I find that so incredibly powerful. And I had a moment yesterday where the guys took my bag, the security, and I don't know, I just lost it completely and went into rage, and it's just not who I want to be. And it's a very good lesson to learn, and just to get present and to breathe and to think what's really important, what am I grateful for. So the 4 things to be a great leader, and I'll go through this and a lot more in the webinar because I can see we've run out of time here. But there's four things that he works with all the best leaders around the world. And the first one is confidence in self. The second is connection to others. The third is commitment to purpose. And the fourth is emotional courage. You need to be able to feel stuff. You need to be able to know that you're going to go into pain and disconnection and things, but to have the difficult conversations. And those are the 4 things. Now, he's got a whole test, and I'll do the test on the webinar. I'll certainly share the test with my inner circle people so that they can do the test themselves and they can see which areas of leadership they need to grow in. But it's not about being good or bad in one of them. You need to be good in all 4 of them to be an outstanding leader. If you're willing to feel everything, you can do anything. How awesome is that? If you're willing to feel everything, you can do anything. To grow emotional courage, you have to have emotional courage. And then something that's really interesting for me, we got this big picture purpose of empowering 1 billion people, trying to solve the wealth gap. And he said, if you really want to be connected to people, people cannot become disposable to the purpose. Richard Branson talks about how most people always say it's customers first, and Richard Branson always says, no, it's team first. And I think that's really, really beautiful. Okay, bear with me here. I've just got to go through the pages quickly to the last page. I need to get an assistant. Nice big boat going out to sea behind us here. And the last lesson, I think, which was really interesting is that, and I'll share the diagrams with you when I do the webinar, but was around how most people, they say that 80% of people in businesses are disconnected. And he says that's not the truth. He said you've generally got brilliant people that are trying their best but are getting blocked all over the place, and it's a whole group of arrows, and how you need to get them all pointing in the same direction. And there's one specific skill upon how you can do that, and I'll share that on the webinar. And it was just like so eye-opening for me. It was just absolutely amazing. And so really that was all my lessons from day 3. It was an incredibly long day, incredibly emotional day. I found myself in tears most of the day, so much so that I went and sat on the beach last night and just reflected on the whole thing, because I found it an incredibly difficult and emotional day. But I suppose that's what leadership's all about, is putting yourself in the discomfort so that you can grow. And I'm certainly here so that I can grow as an individual. I can help our team grow. I can help our community grow. And I hope these videos are adding value to you. You can, this hasn't been easy, and that I can promise you. So today's the last day. Look forward to sharing with you. And I have to say I'm a little bit nervous because clearly this thing has touched a nerve big time. I'll leave you with a funny story. I phoned my son this morning. It's really hard as a dad when you're away a lot, and some people believe in quantity and others believe in quality. And I phoned my son this morning and I said, Jonty, I can't wait to share all these lessons of leadership and how you can become a great leader and everything else. And I said, well, are you excited about that? And he said, no. I said, why not? He said, Daddy, I'm a great leader. All my cousins and my school friends follow me. So, a bit of humor. Anyway, subscribe to the channel if you like it. Share it with your friends. We want to empower 1 billion people. We can't do it on our own, and we can only do it one person at a time. And we all have the responsibility to share this knowledge so that people can become great leaders. They can fulfill their destiny, and we can all make this place a better and more sustainable planet for all. Cheers. Till tomorrow. From this beautiful day, I'll give you one more screenshot round. You can see everyone getting ready to go on their boats. San Diego is just the most amazing city. Anyway, cheers.